In this self-nip bobbly de baba dee ba doo doo. Greetings, listeners all around the world. You're listening to DemiPhase, Demi-Cerebral Neurophasing Podcast by Hypnoathletics, exercising your mind. My name is Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander, and I'm your host and guide in this thanatology-based journeys of binaural beats and other frequency formulas to help you relax, sleep, lucid dream, and beyond. Today, this podcast is called Extreme Lucid Dreaming, Astral Projection, and Telekinesis Accelerator. Yes, extreme. All right. Let's see. What shall I change this to here? Let's do our DownPour Phaser. Today we'll listen to that in the background. Some nice rain and frequency formula that I created called. So this is one of the binaural beat frequency formulas I've created. It's called DownPour Phaser. Some rain that I recorded. I believe it was when I was in Hangzhou, China. I was in several cities, especially leading up to before I left there. Anyway, like I said, Extreme Lucid Dreaming, Astral Projection, and Telekinesis Accelerator. I hope that this is going to be astonishingly short for a chatterbox like myself. This is going to give you 3 very simple steps that you can use instantly and that will have amazing and extreme results. It will accelerate your ability to lucid dream, to astral project, and to see telekinetic results in different experiments that you may want to do to check it out for yourself. So, the 3 steps are consist of a mantra, a couple mantras, and a meditation, and then listening to DemiPhase audios like this DownPour Phaser. So let me just get right into the steps here for extreme lucid dreaming, astral projection, and telekinesis acceleration. So the first one, these things I've talked about before, but when I did, it took me a while to really kind of solidify and really get really clear on how they worked, because as I developed them and came up with them, I had to start practicing them, putting them into practice and experimenting with them and seeing how they worked. And sure enough, this seems to be a really extremely powerful accelerator for lucid dreaming, astral projection, and telekinesis. So let's get right into it. Number 1 is using a self-hypnosis exercise that I created called the Lucid Ingredient. And what are the lucid ingredients? It's very simple. Throughout the day, while you're awake, you say to yourself or out loud, depending on the appropriateness of where you happen to be, you ask yourself the question, am I dreaming? And then you answer, yes, I am dreaming. You're always going to affirm or say yes that you're dreaming. So again, you're just simply going to ask yourself, am I dreaming? And then you say, yes, I am dreaming. Now this can be combined with, and part of this is step number 2, which I've called a couple of things in different podcasts. I've called this before in this particular podcast for DemiPhase. I've called it SuperHuman Practice Meditation. And in my UniquilibriuM podcast, I called it Imaginative Role Play Meditation. But for this one, let's call it SuperHuman Practice Meditation. That might be a little bit more catchy and easy to remember. So, SuperHuman Practice Meditation is a way to test your reality, to test which reality you're in. Are you in the reality, the non-physical reality of mind and imagination, or are you in our 3-dimensional reality? And so when you ask yourself the question, am I dreaming? And you answer, yes, I am dreaming, you could simply attempt to practice some superhuman powers. You can attempt to move objects simply by looking at them and imagining them going either left or right. For example, a glass, or maybe not a glass, but something safe like a plastic container sliding to the left or to the right on the table, or a piece of paper lifting up. You can imagine manifesting objects. You can manifest tools like a pencil and a notepad. You could manifest weapons if you like to see if you can form them out of anywhere. You can manifest vehicles, a car, a helicopter, what have you. But that's a form of reality testing when you ask yourself the question, am I dreaming? And then you answer, yes, I am dreaming. So you test out these different superhuman powers, and that will tell you whether or not you're in the dream world, the imaginative, non-physical dream world. And another one of the superhuman practices you can do is see if you can float off of the floor, or if you can fly or levitate. So those are the ways to reality test when you ask yourself the question of the question of the lucid ingredient, which is, am I dreaming? And then the next ingredient is the answer, yes, I am dreaming. And you reality test by practicing superpowers like floating or flying, manifesting different objects, or telekinesis, moving things with your mind and thought. And then step 2 is a meditation all in itself, separate from number 1. You can do this by sitting down and listening to, and this one also goes over partly into number 3. So you see, they really, it's like a Venn diagram. They really cross over. They're linked to each other, all 3 of these steps. So number 2, again, I've called it imaginative role play meditation. We'll call it here superhuman practice meditation. So simply sitting down or lying down somewhere comfortable. You can put on a pair of headphones and listen to an audio such as the one that you're listening to now, which I will put a link to in this podcast. Wherever you find it, you'll see it on YouTube or on one of my blogs on HakimAlexander.com or UniquilibriuM.com, wherever I decide to put this. Actually, I think I might put it on HakimAlexander.com. Anyway, so you lie down, sit down, recline somewhere comfortable and quiet, put on the headphones, listen to one of my DemiPhase audios like this one that you can hear in the background called DownPour Phaser, and you practice those different superhuman powers. I've limited it to 3 to keep it simple. There are probably many other things you can think about if you're a fan of sci-fi movies, specifically the Marvel and DC universe movies with superheroes. So you can add as many as you want or whatever appeals to you. Some people are afraid of heights, so they don't want to imagine themselves flying, but that's what you'll do. Lay down, lie down, close your eyes, put on one of these DemiPhase audios or any other binaural beat audio that suits you. It should be non-verbal, so there should be no voice in it, unless you record your own voice giving yourself directions, or another one that you might listen to that I've created. But you simply imagine yourself floating, levitating, or flying. And you'll do this, actually, the thing that makes this different from the crossover from step 1 is that in this one you're going to start either flying, floating, or levitating in a place that you're familiar with, such as your home, your workplace, school, a park, or some other place that you're very, very familiar with, either because you've been there or you've seen the outlay of it in television, movies, other videos, or books or magazines, that you know the floor plan and you can move through this place in your imagination. And so what you're going to do is start at the exit or entrance or some particular room in this dwelling, this place that you're going to start, or this park. It could be outside, inside, or even a city. It could be your route to work or your route to school. And you just imagine yourself with as much detail as you possibly can from a starting point and getting to a finishing point. And you imagine everything that you can. Maybe you say hi to people along the way. But what you're doing is you're floating, levitating, or flying, moving, or you can even walk through the area, the workspace, the school area, or whatever it is, the park. And something that also helps to imagine walking is to look down and imagine, see what your feet, see your feet and your legs. What shoes are you wearing? Are you wearing pants or shorts, a skirt, a dress, whatever? What color are they? And so you imagine yourself moving somehow through this space. But if it's going to be a superhuman practice, usually you're not going to want to be walking. You want to be floating, levitating, or flying through the area. And of course, when you're flying, it doesn't have to be fast, right? Then the next thing you can do is to imagine telekinesis. Imagine moving objects with your thought. Maybe you can direct them with your hand. You see your hand lift up, your right or your left hand, and you wave something to the left, you wave something to the right. And so in your mind's eye, you're not physically touching the object, you're merely using your hand to kind of guide it from a distance. You're standing way across the other side of a room, and you use your hand, you wave it to the right, and you see a book fall over onto its right side if the book was standing up, or a glass, or a bottle, or whatever. Or you can lift up a car, with your mind, seeing it floating up in the air. This is a superpower, telekinesis, or also known as psychokinesis. So there's another thing to do. And then the third thing you can do is to manifest objects, to make things form into your hands. You can see an object form in your hand, a pencil, a notebook, a tool, a hammer, a screwdriver, or a weapon, a gun, a knife, a sword, just manifest in your hand. And then you can even combine some of these things. You can imagine yourself in some familiar place, and you're floating or flying around inside of it, going through from room to room. You can imagine yourself as you go through room to room using telekinesis to open and close the doors around you, to pick up and lift objects and bring them towards you. You can imagine the objects in your hand disappearing and reappearing in your hand. You can imagine brand new objects appearing in your hand and using telekinesis to put them down on a shelf or the floor. You can imagine the weapons or different things forming in your hand and twirling around and getting a different perspective of it. And so then that's a way that you can combine all three of those. So that's step 2, superhuman practice meditation. And then, as I said, you'll be doing that while listening to one of these DemiPhase audios, like the one you can hear in the background, called DownPour Phaser. And that's step 3. Listen to DemiPhase audios. You can listen to my demi-cerebral neurophasing audios, or you can listen to any other binaural beats or isochronic tones like solfeggio tones, or anything else that you find helps you to get in a meditative state and helps you to imagine these different scenarios that will help you in your lucid dreaming and astral projection and telekinesis endeavors. So now, some people, this may or may not be familiar to you, but it's less of a stretch to imagine how these different types of meditations can help you with lucid dreaming and astral projection. But some people don't know, how can this help me with telekinesis? Well, I found through experiments that I've done and that I continue to repeat, that the more I'm able to use my imagination and the more I'm able to focus and concentrate, the more advanced of a meditator I become, the more I am able to influence or push or steer the outcome of coin tosses, physical coin tosses, or also more often random number generators, digital random number generators, which I've downloaded, and I've also screen captured and shown myself live doing the experiments on camera and posted the videos, which I'll also post that and the results to those so you can check it out too. And the next stage, which I haven't gotten to yet because I'm wanting to become much more advanced of a meditator in being able to steer or push or influence the outcome of the random number generators before I start doing macro telekinesis or macro psychokinesis. Because what I'm doing now by influencing the random number generators is known as micro TK or micro PK, micro telekinesis or micro psychokinesis. And so eventually I already have the experiment set up how I want to do it. I just haven't completed it yet. There's actually one more piece of equipment that I need to build or buy, which I think I'm actually going to buy one somewhere. It's simply a covering to cover up the experiment area for the object I'll be attempting to move telekinetically, so that there's no chance of there being wind or other, outside forces besides my thought moving it. But I'll get into that another time. Anyway, so just to recap, there are 3 steps. One is a mantra / self-hypnosis exercise that I will also put a link to that I created. You can listen to that first. That will help you with that, to learn and understand that a little bit more. It's called a Lucid Ingredient, where you ask yourself the question, am I dreaming? And you answer, yes, I'm dreaming. Yes, I am dreaming. And then you cross over partly into step 2, which is when you answer, yes, I am dreaming, you use different superhuman practices. You imagine yourself flying or floating, levitating. You can imagine yourself moving objects with your mind, opening and closing doors, lifting up objects and setting them down, tables, chairs, whatever. And then you can also imagine manifesting different objects in your mind. It could be a tool, it could be a weapon, it could be a piece of fruit. You can imagine an apple manifesting, or you forming it, building it with your mind into your hand. And you can be doing that while listening to one of the DemiPhase audios that I've created, or any binaural beat or isochronic tone of your own choosing. And then that part 2 also has the feature where you should be looking at practicing these superhuman practices, or the superhuman practice meditation in a familiar place, a home, work, school, a city, a park, whatever, that you're going through this place while floating, flying, while moving objects with your mind, while manifesting and disappearing or demanifesting different things. And you do this all while listening to the DemiPhase audios. Or you could simply learn how to relax yourself all by itself. Step number 3 is very often useful in helping you to lucid dream, is just simply listening to one of the DemiPhase audios, because they've been created specifically for having out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming. So that's it. Those are the 3 steps there for extreme lucid dreaming, astral projection, and telekinesis acceleration. And so, as this podcast is called, Extreme Lucid Dreaming, Astral Projection, and Telekinesis Accelerator. Fantastic. So that's going to be it for now. I'm going to leave all those links into the podcast here so you can check them out. Leave me any comments if you have any questions. Say what's up, and let me know how these have been useful to you. And I will touch on this again at some point in time. I'm going to continue doing experiments myself and just keep getting better and better at doing this. And I know that with practice, you will too. So yeah, let me know how it goes for you. This is Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander with DemiPhase, demi-cerebral neurophasing, created by Hypno-Athletics, exercising your mind. I'll catch you on the next wave. Stay well.